o'clock on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee meeting minutes and agendas can be found in the school committee page of the Millis Public School website. I'm not going to bother with the rest. We don't have anybody here for open session, so we'll move right to teacher representatives. Ms. Copice. How are you?
Hello.
Good.
Okay.
So the fourth graders dissected, or will soon be dissecting, owl pellets as part of their animal adaptations unit. We love the owl pellets. They are delightful. A big thank you to the Home and School Association from Clyde Brown for the purchase of 12 robots plus accessories for the STEAM lab. Mrs. Valuzzi is super grateful and she's very excited to be using them with the students. And the Clyde Brown is holding a soup drive to support the Millis Food Bank from now until their all-school assembly on the 19th, which I believe is next week on Tuesday. And the theme of this assembly is going to be giving, hence the giving of the soup. Pull-top cans are preferred if you're feeling like you need to drop some off. The middle school's band and chorus concert is tomorrow evening, I believe, at 7 p.m. The 8th graders are preparing for their trip to Trinity Rep. And also in 8th grade, the Spanish classes are learning about how music can help them remember words and phrases. So that's been an activity in sort of multiple senses. The 8th grade Spanish PLT has been following a supernatural tale from Argentina and is learning about the unique dialect spoken in the country. In 7th grade, ELA continues to be reading short stories in preparation for their field trip to the Mechanics Hall Theater next week. We have a congratulations going out to Emma Genovese for her amazing cross-country performance this fall. She recently traveled to Kentucky to compete in the Junior Olympics. That was last week, if I'm not mistaken. The 7th grade science students have been doing a bunch of multitasking. They've been doing their bridge design challenge, and they are also working on developing their STEAM fair testable questions and designing their experiments. And the trout are coming back. The 75-gallon fish tank is getting prepped and ready for the eastern brook trout eggs that are coming. I know it was the trout that kept Mr. Mulaney company during the pandemic isolation period of time.
Just me and the trout.
Yes. I don't know how many of those ones have still made it, but you never know. Kudos to 7th grader AJ Mingles for his public performance on the guitar at Medway Cafe this weekend. 7th grade Spanish students have been learning how to ask and answer questions about where stuff is located in the classroom. And the immersion students are learning about sports-related vocabulary to coincide with the chapter book they are reading about a young girl who goes to soccer camp in Mexico. Let's see, 6th graders are exploring multicultural versions of the Cinderella stories to learn how different cultures can infuse their voices into similar stories. And the students will be rewriting a scene from their favorite version in their point of view of a character of their choice. And we had several middle school students competing at the Mercury Invitational Track Meet at Wheaton College over the weekend. So congrats out to Dylan Fitzgerald, who placed first, and Reed Roberts, who placed third in the freshman 300-meter race. We have a big one here. We have super proud of our 8th graders, Cassidy Cook and Madison Brasinka, who are in the 14 and under level Millis Medway Youth Cheer Team. The team also became Massachusetts State and New England Regional Grand Champions. And they recently traveled to Florida to compete, where they were awarded national champions and level 3 grand champions. So they have had quite a track of national titles, 2019, 2020, 2022, and 23. Wow. At the high school, we had mentioned last time that we were sending our team to the DECA Championship, DECA Conference, and so we actually placed fourth and got an honorable mention medal. So the team, the state DECA advisor told Ms. Fitzgerald that it was super impressive that the team didn't actually start working until October and were able to pull it together and present. So basically they presented a CNC machine, which is a machine used to cut and design metal. And so that was the project they presented at DECA. There were 13 teams, we placed fourth, so that's pretty exciting. On Friday, December 1st, we had 6 students attend the IDEAS conference at Lincoln-Sudbury Regional High School. IDEAS stands for Initiatives for Developing Equity and Achievement for Students. One of the students was Ryan Fitzgerald, so I was speaking to him about it. And basically, it was a full day of kind of going to conferences so that the students can find their voice around infusing equity and achievement for all students into their school. And it's not just coming top down from staff, but it's going to be like a student-driven initiative. So that was pretty exciting. We had our November Students of the Month announced this week at the high school. So freshman was Alexis Scary, sophomore was Chase O'Connell, junior was Lauren Malaquis, and the senior category was Wilson Copese and Kristen Kelly. We had our Lions Club speech contest last week, and the topic was if you could talk to a historical figure, who would it be and why, for all intents and purposes. And the winner was Genesis Figueroa, so she will kind of move on to the next round. We have the high school band and chorus concert next week on the 21st, slided in right before the holiday. Ms. Norton is keeping her fingers crossed that she has an excellent showing from the alumni, and I'm not quite sure who the clapper is in Sleigh Ride. Do you know, Mr. Mulaney?
No,
Oh, it is a well-kept secret, so we'll find out.
it's not me.
It's never me, so we'll find out who it is. I don't know if you guys know about the honor that is. So each year, the students and bands select an adult in the community of the high school generally, sometimes it's a middle school person, to do the clapping during Sleigh Ride, which is the alumni piece, so that when the alumni come back, they can also join in. They play the same tune every year.
Very nice.
Have you ever been the clapper?
I have been, and
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say,
technically
like
it's the slapstick you're working when you do that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Maybe that's why I'm never invited, because I don't know what it's called. I feel like I have a sense of rhythm. I should be able to handle it. And then finally, we just wrapped up No Shave November, which was a movement by Active Minds to bring awareness to men's mental health, which is what happens in November. So we had 34 students and 14 faculty members not shave for the month of November. And then there was some voting to be done around who had the best hair growth, who had the worst hair growth, who should keep their hair growth. And we're happy to report that Mr. Fallon has decided that he likes his little red-toned beard and will be keeping it. Our new school resource officer was more than Zach Forsythe won an award for having the most patient significant other, as his future wife was not particularly pleased from what we hear about the facial hair growth, but kudos to him for being a really big team player on that front. So that is what I have for the pre-holiday announcements. Any questions, or are you guys satisfied?
That's great.
That's good.
Excellent.
Thank
Just,
you very much.
if I could, just,
Yeah.
this probably happens the meeting after the Nutcracker every year, but congratulations on
Oh, thank
another
you.
successful Nut.
Yes.
It was
Thank you.
fantastic, all three shows.
Great. It went really well. It was a good time. So thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It was our most attended performance to date. So between the three shows, we had 1,170 ticketed participants.
Wow, that's
So
great. That's amazing.
Saturday and Sunday, we were sold out at 400 folks. We actually turned people away on Saturday and Sunday.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
that's,
a
other
good
than,
problem to have.
town meeting that's having a contentious vote.
Yeah.
I don't think, we ever usually get such a full auditorium.
Yeah.
So it was a good time. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right, we can jump to time and learning.
Director of Digital Learning and Technology, Ryan Camille, is going to give us a state of the technology in the Millis Public Schools.
Excellent.
Excellent. So thank you very much for having me tonight. Look forward to giving you a quick update on the state of technology, some of the great things we've accomplished over the past year, and some thoughts, ideas, and initiatives we're thinking about for the future. So feel free to stop me at any point, ask any questions. Be happy to answer them. So we still have a small but great team here in Millis. So I'm in place as the director, and then we have Don Terrell as our network manager, handling all our Wi-Fi, network switches, infrastructure, and overall support of all the roles in our IT department. Chad Liberty, who's our data specialist, handles our student information system, state reporting, databases, and then provides backup also in terms of IT support. Dave, Dave Bush, he's our lead technician, handles all of the teacher devices, labs, computers around the building, as well as all our support and assistance through audio and visual. Darius is our mobile device specialist, so he's going to be kind of in charge and the lead for all of the student devices, iPads, Chromebooks. Chad and Darius also help me with the student technology team, as well as everyone kind of jumping in a little bit too with that. So we have a tight team. Everyone kind of helps each other out when they need to, but they do have their kind of specific roles as well. So currently, there's a little idea of what our infrastructure looks like. This past summer, we replaced all the wireless access points in this building, so the ones you see up here. We replaced 84 of those in this building. They all support the newest wireless standard of 6E. This is not because we are currently utilizing all these devices that broadcast in 6E, but it's kind of future-proofing us for when that does happen, whether it's the new Chromebooks, fake detectors, camera systems, things like that. If this technology comes around that we feel will benefit the school, and it happens to broadcast and run through 6E, we'll be ready for that. So that was a good switch for us over the summer. Another project that I'll talk about that we're hoping to move this year is to deal with our aging network switches. So the access points are kind of our end user kind of piece of the wireless network, but then our switches in the back end, kind of what keeps everything running. And what we have are some very old switches in this building that need to be replaced. Our last ones, their end of life comes this summer, so we're looking to replace those. A little bit more modern switches and all. We would like them all managed through a cloud-based platform. Right now we have to log in to them directly. It's a little bit harder when you can only be in district or connect VPN to get in to access those switches and manage them from outside of the building. So updated switches with the cloud-based platform will provide us greater flexibility in managing those and monitoring and making sure everything runs smoothly. So hoping to replace those old switches. Same thing with our servers. We have the 3 servers. You can see the years 2010, 2015, 2017. So those are all even older than the switches. Some have passed their end of life, kind of migrated them over to more storage-based servers. We have, over the past year, been downsizing what we've used those servers for. We've moved as much as we can, or what made sense, to move to cloud-based solutions. And with that, it allows us not to need as much server space. It also allows us to kind of be more secure in terms of our network, where we're relying on those vendors and those other companies to take on that role of the secure kind of piece of it. So even though we have downsized, we have these old servers that we're going to consolidate into maybe one larger server that will kind of serve all our needs in-house. Our security system, meaning primarily our doors and cameras. Obviously at CFB, new building, 2019, we're still kind of up to date. That building's in great shape. Over here we have some older systems in terms of like analog door systems. Our cameras, again, are not cloud-based. They operate on a DVR style recording in a closet. So meeting our needs of getting, holding the footage we need and storing it, and we're able to search those. But again, we have to be kind of on site or access through a VPN to kind of search through those feeds. And it's not HD, it's kind of older system, not a cloud-based platform. So at some point in time, it will be nice to upgrade that system as well. So both the cameras and the doors. So this is an older building. Obviously we have a building project that we've been talking about too, so some of this kind of can be talked about a little more when that comes to be. But overall things have been running pretty smoothly. The hardware and software across the district, faculty and staff, we all have MacBooks. They are connected to the projectors in the room via our Apple TVs. So all the projectors in the classrooms have an Apple TV attached where they can wirelessly project to those. Students have Chromebooks in grades 6 through 12 where they take them home on a daily basis. We encourage all parents to take advantage of the insurance cost. Thinking of that, my son, 6th grader, came home today, said, I opened this on the bus, and this is what it looked like. And I believe he didn't do it. It was a cracked screen. So these things happen sometimes. Just other books, other things in a backpack, squish, screens crack. So we encourage all the parents to buy the insurance for our Chromebooks, $30 a year, as opposed to having to replace a $300, $250 kind of device, right? So it makes sense. So those 6 through 12 students take home the Chromebooks. Grades 2 through 5, they're all classroom based, so they all have their own one-to-one, but they remain in the classroom. And then grades K through 1 continue with the iPads. Again, one-to-one, but they remain in the classroom. As far as our kind of tool that we use the most often, and we are a Google Workspace district, so you all have your own millisschools.org accounts, so all the teachers and staff, all our accounts are managed through Google. We use Google Classroom, Gmail, DocSheet, Slide, the whole Google suite of tools, which kind of simplifies a lot of what we do here in our teaching and our learning and in our IT department. We are continuing to explore upgrading our Google Workspace subscription. We're right now operating under the free Education Standard Edition. There are some additional tiers that offer quite a bit more in terms of the features, both in the classroom with add-ons and functionality of Google Classroom, things like a built-in plagiarism tool called the Originality Reports within Classroom. There are additional apps that you can add only if you have that upgraded tier. And basically what that means is Google releases the code to developers out there to create their own apps for all these different tools. But without the premium version, you can't add those to your instance of Google Workspace. So we may be missing out in terms of some of the fun new tools that are available to students and teachers. In addition to those classroom pieces, there are items that we're interested in the IT end and the back end as far as auditing, reporting, safety, and security, even to the point where we may be able to, if we were to switch to this premium upgrade, it may not be necessary to have some sort of support contract because that upgrade would take that place for our new Google tier. So that's been an exploration over the past year, and we hope to do that at some point soon.
Excuse me, can I ask a
Yep,
question about
definitely.
that? So is that funding that you or the school could look towards HSA for?
It's a yearly subscription.
Okay.
So I don't know if HSA would support that from year to year.
Okay. Versus like a
I
one-time.
think typically they're a one-time purchase type.
Yeah, operation. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Our software. So we have a variety of software that we utilize, both teacher ed and student end. Myself, along with the director of curriculum, teachers, we review this from year to year. You know, I'm a little over 1 year in, so I've gone through this process now of where we've analyzed the data of how many students are using it, how many interactions they have, time within the applications, and we're kind of making judgments based on that usage, whether we renew them or not. And we have decided not to renew a few things. We've also added a few other things that were crucial to instruction in the classroom. So software is always an ongoing kind of process of figuring out how it's being used, who it's being used by, and what the cost of that product is. In terms of technology integration, digital literacy, and computer science, so I have a PLC with the teachers at the elementary, middle, and high school, the computer science and digital literacy teachers, they have a goal of aligning our curriculums K through 12, and a lot of their focus right now is figuring out aligning specifically a lot of the programming standards. So we have written a few grants. We have in-house already some different robots and programming tools where we're looking at the standards and making sure that what is being taught at CFB is providing them a good foundation for them to then build on in middle school. And it's the same teacher in middle school and high school. So he's able to kind of build upon what Ann is doing at the elementary school in the middle school, and then take it to the next level as they move into the high school. So we're always looking for new ways to bring in some hands-on, getting kids kind of engaged in the different tools and resources to move toward those digital literacy and computer science pieces. My background is technology integration, so that's like my bread and butter. That's what I'm most interested in, being in the classroom and working with teachers. So I try to make myself available to teachers however I can, whether it's staff meetings, which I'm at the middle school yesterday in their staff meeting, other PLCs, prep periods, and it's providing that support for existing tools we have that we pay for, free tools that are available, answering the various questions that the teachers have in terms of, I've been trying to do X, Y, or Z, and it always takes me forever. Do you know of a simpler way to do it? So talking about easier way and be able to give teachers back some more time. My regular vehicle, kind of reaching out to teachers and presenting them with some new things or new things to them, or what I think is some kind of current topic, is my weekly tech tip on Tuesday. So every Tuesday the teachers will get a tech tip, which contains an archive of all of my tech tips. The document today was number 370, so since September of 2013, it's running. So a lot of times we'll build off those tech tips to kind of get in the class, and it'll kind of make people think about, oh, well, maybe you'll have me in my classroom for that. Tomorrow I'm in a classroom regarding VR carts and Spanish curriculum and culture stuff. So it's fun to get in the classroom, constantly promote to these teachers. Great things to do. My focus is to allow students to be creators of information, not just kind of ingest things. What's the best way for them to demonstrate their learning, demonstrate understanding of topics? For the teachers, different ways to present some of the materials. So,
Can I ask a question?
for sure.
Can we get more typing classes? Because my kids type like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping that we could have more typing apps or
Yep.
practicing.
At the elementary school, we utilize Typing Club, which is a paid app that we pay for that the students do access. At the middle school and high school, I think it was last week, I was asked by some classroom teachers about typing and what we have. So we don't pay for that level, but I recommended typing.com, which is very low on ads for free. So it's pretty safe in terms of what's popping up on the screens. It's a sign-in with Google, so you can kind of track everything as a teacher. So typing.com is a good one that's very easy to do self-paced, but teachers can also monitor it too.
Okay.
But it's something I can talk to our middle and high school digital literacy person about too.
Okay.
What
Thanks.
grade are your kids in?
3rd and 6th.
3rd and 6th?
Yeah.
Yep, so your 3rd grader hopefully will get the
Yeah.
typing club. Yep.
6th grade will be typing with the phone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It'll come. Yep. So some of our recent successful initiatives over this past year was our upgrade to the Wi-Fi 6 access points in this building. We instituted our ClassLink dashboard, so when you logged in, you probably saw maybe this ClassLink dashboard. So it's sign in with Google. It's a nice picture of our front door at night that was taken by a former student. So our ClassLink dashboard takes the place of our old Rapid Identity single sign-on solution. So this new dashboard is very customizable for teachers and students. It allows one-click access into almost all the apps that we use. It also does all the the automatic rostering from year to year. So it creates all of the accounts in our back end for Google. So it takes, it saves us a lot of time in terms of some of the tasks that go on with user accounts in applications that we use. And it's been very successful. MBA report creator, we implemented this year. So it helps with creating our report cards now. It's a much more simple process, allows us to edit them very easily, change the look and feel, but most importantly, it allows us to send them digitally. So we don't have to. We can still do one or all of the methods, but we don't have to print these out anymore. We can send them digitally to families. They can be signed digitally by families, and we can track and see all of that. And then they're also saved as a historical record in the parent portal for these counts. So starting this year, the kindergartners that have their report cards, when they're in 12th grade, they're going to be able to look back and they'll see them all in one place. All their report cards, progress reports, etc. So we didn't have that capability before. Our shop group, so it might be hard to see, but in the back corner down there is our shop desk. You can see on the front of the desk is our new banner with the logo of our shop team. So that was designed by one of our shop students. They all submitted logo ideas and they voted on it, and that was the winner. Our shop team is an extension of our IT department. So it's the technology team. They help us. They're our first kind of point of contact. So I think I have kids there every block but one or two during most days. So students or teachers can go there. They're then triaged to either send up to the IT department or they actually fix the devices right there at the desk. The students started 2 weeks ago a online certification program through Acer to become Acer, I think they call them Acer certified techsperts. So they're able to go ahead and replace keyboards, touchpads, screens, and things like that in our Chromebooks.
That's great.
So it frees up some of the time of our IT department. And that's been working out very well. One of the senior students has taken upon himself for his senior project to create a class for 8th graders to prepare them to join shop next year. So it's a great thing that he took upon to do that. The grade 7 and 8 Chromebooks is new this year where they had iPads. We phased them out as the iPads are now, as the Chromebooks are definitely the more productive tool, benefit them in the classroom. We've moved, last year when I first spoke, I talked about the hope to get a certain kind of Chromebook. We were able to. This is the new ones where they do go right into the tablet mode. So it's just like an iPad, but it's better. As the Chromebook, you can leave it in tablet mode, you can put it in regular, you can put it in a tent mode, do so many different things. It also has the camera here and the camera in the front. So a dual camera to be able to use it just like an iPad as well. Touch screen. And these will be the new standard for all the Chromebooks that we have moving forward. So they'll all be the touchscreen. Grade 2, currently grade 2 and grade 8 are the grades where those new ones come, and they carry them with them from 2 to 7 and then 8 to 12. And the reason for the long time from 2 to 7 is because the bulk of that time they're sitting in the classrooms and they're not really moving too much. So we think we're going to get a lot of life out of them there. I'll tell you, actually, I'll just jump here real quick, but for future considerations of K-1, there may be the thought of switching to these also for K-1. It's the talk about what apps are they using on the iPads, what are the goals of those apps, can we get the same app on this or a similar app on this? And if we can get the same or similar, it really just makes sense for everyone to have Chromebooks moving forward instead of iPads. And if we do that at the K-1 level, our refresh cycle, instead of being 2 to 8, will be a little bit tighter window and more evenly spaced between those three. Like a 3 kind of, they'll get 3 throughout their school career.
And you can teach them to type in
There
kindergarten.
you go. Yeah, they'll get it even
Perfect.
earlier. Yeah.
Start early.
Yeah.
We just completed our first year-long track of cybersecurity training through a grant through the Department of Education. This included 4 assignments with 4 modules each that talked about everything from securing passwords to phishing to online scams, you name it. In the course of those 4 assignments over the past year, we also did some phishing tests. So within the emails to our staff, they were sent things like, this bill was here, you owe this, X, Y, and Z, or, one was like, your Venmo account has been compromised, click here, things like that to see what people will do for certain links. So there was 4 of those. Very successful. Everyone's paranoid now, though, to open anything in the school. It's pretty funny. But that's good. It's making people think about what they're looking. They're looking at these things they never looked at. As annoyed they were by some of these, even those people that said they were annoyed, they appreciated what it did to them thinking about this. So, and we had, I think, out of the 173 tests that went out in our last test, 173 emails, there were only 9 clicks, which is great. So that's a success in my opinion. And we'll be applying for the new round for this year. I'm submitting that actually tomorrow. And we also instituted Smart Find Express as our kind of absence management tool. So we've always had this tool as the primary tool for our subs and finding subs, but never utilized the big component of it where it was tracking our staff's reason balances for time off and things like that. So now this is a one-stop shop where everyone can go in and see all their available balance of a sick, personal, vacation. They can refer back to it. It goes through an approval of administrators and things like that. So successful implementation of that HR component as well. A few things that we're considering for this upcoming year and a little bit down the road. We're still developing an incident response plan, which goes into quite a bit of detail in terms of what happens in lieu of some sort of cybersecurity event. Someone's hacked, switch goes down, the network is compromised, who's responsible. It's kind of very detailed, so we have a protocol and a plan for when something like that happens. We're also thinking about MacBooks versus Chromebooks for staff. In Millis, we've always been a MacBook school, I think for a very long time. And at one point in time, there was really nothing better than having a MacBook in school. But now, having something like this, which is touch screen, you can access all the same things you would be able to access on a Chromebook as you would on a MacBook. It's do we need MacBooks? And it's going to be kind of talking with these teachers and probably give them a little test drive of this. Like I'm going to probably say, take this for a week, don't touch your MacBook, let's see how it goes and what happens. I mean, for me personally, having the touchscreen just in itself is huge for me. So we're going to evaluate MacBooks versus Chromebooks for staff.
Have the Chromebooks gotten better with, like I know at certain points when we started shifting, we needed Macs for and iPads for design and art type stuff.
Yeah.
Has that gotten better?
It's definitely gotten better. It depends. So it depends on what we're doing. So we would probably still need Macs around some of those art Adobe products and things like that, where the lab would contain that, or we'd have a subset of MacBooks for some of those teachers, maybe in some of the programming classes. But in general, they've been able to kind of take on so many of these different projects. There's not much out there that this couldn't handle. We talked about the security system, iPads. We talked about clear touch panels versus projectors. So all the classrooms have these projectors. They are getting on the older side as well, and we're considering what to do with these. Do we continue on the path of using these projectors, or do we utilize something like a clear touch panel? And this is a 75-inch touchscreen panel. Just think a giant iPad right in the room. that's mobile. It can be wirelessly projected to from a MacBook, from a Chromebook, from an iPad, from your phone, from anything, whereas these projectors right now, I couldn't get this up there if I tried. It's only that Apple TV I can get there. I'd have to disconnect the Apple TV, plug in an HDMI cord, and then plug into here, and then I can project here. The Clear Touch panels allow for teachers, students, anybody to connect to them however they want. They are new, as in the last couple of months, called EDLA certified, which means they are like a Android device. So it has the full app store, Google Play Store, where you can sign in just like any Google device, install any app, access anything. So we've been demoing a few of them over the last couple of months, where you sign in just like you would sign into a Chromebook. You have access to all the Google tools right there. They are the teachers and students say, "Oh my God, can we just keep it here? It's so much clearer." Again, they're mobile. You can move them around. At least for the students and the younger age, especially too. Definitely a novelty where they're up there and just trying to touch everything. That will eventually wear off to some degree, right? So we can't just rely on that being as the only factor we get these. But there's a lot of positives, and cost being one of them. Projector will last 10 to 15. A panel will last 10 to 15 years. These projectors, 7, maybe. And then you might be dealing with bulbs in between there too, which are expensive. So we're considering kind of what we do with panels versus projectors across the district.
And would that be something you just phased in as projectors went, you'd replace them? Or
That's
look
one of
to-
the thoughts is when they go out, it could possibly be a choice. Do you want to remain with the projector, or we're going to say, nope, we're going to move to panels because we want everyone there. And the thinking too there, and this is very initial, is do we kind of front load and try to think about a leasing option for a bunch that we have available to make it kind of even easier for us to make those purchases up front.
Mike, did we look at purchasing some through HSA for this year?
Yes, this year, Tana, I think this week, or late last week, talked to HSA about purchasing 3 for that building. So it would be 1 to be shared for each wing. So the K1 wing, and then the upstairs, was it 2, 3, 4, or pre-K and K, and then 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 1 for each wing. So it would be on like a kind of reservation type scenario where we'd set that up and the teachers can share it throughout the day. Yeah, so 3 there. Actually, another teacher over there, a language based teacher, put her own grant in through Merit to get one as well. So, I mean, that just shows like right there, like they liked them quite a bit over there. Here too.
How much are they?
I think it was $3,250 or $3,500. Say $3,500 a piece. That would be with the panel and the cart. Yeah. These can be mounted too, and it would bring the price down a little bit. So that would be a discussion.
Prices come down a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, a website review. So we're looking at our current website, seeing if it still makes sense in terms of the overall platform. Do we want to remain with that? Is it still meeting all our needs? Or do we stay with the platform and just do a redesign, or do we keep as is? So a website review is still something we're looking at down the road. And then finally, thinking of all that we've done over the past year and what we want to do forward, we've kind of come up with 3 goals for our department, and that's to secure the network, fine-tune these APs and the signal that it's sending throughout the building, make informed purchases for our new switching gear that we're hopefully going to do this summer, work on some of those problem areas and figure out kind of what's happening in terms of some of the connectivity in certain areas, the auditorium being one of those. When we have a large group into that space, especially with cell phones and everything else, we're seeing kind of conflicting kind of signals and some connectivity issues that we're trying to work out. So we want to make sure across the building all of that is ironed out. as well as securing the network in terms of how people log in. So students can only have one device. They all have their own logins, just to make sure that we're on top of the security of our network and we're keeping everyone's personal identification and data safe. Across the district, we want to create a common understanding of the roles of the entire IT department and what teachers and students have access to in terms of the resources for troubleshooting, for identifying problems, finding training on not only ed tech, but hardware and software as well. We're working on creating a tech help or IT corner section of our digital learning site. And then also thinking about, outside of the help desk, some way for teachers to easily and quickly provide feedback to us to be able to kind of create this common understanding of the IT department. And then finally, we want to increase the communication and outreach to the community and parents specifically, what they can do, what they can help, something like about insurance and promoting some of these cyber safety rules with their children. Manuals on all things tech, which kind of right now lives on our digital learning site for parents, and then to continue hopefully to offer more nights like we had recently with the digital jungle presentation for parents, and always looking for ideas of what parents may want for the next one. It could be specific to student software like I wrote here, maybe AI, that's been the biggest hot topic with a lot of people, and had a lot of meetings here with teachers. Maybe that's something we talk about with parents and how they can use that. So we're busy and lots of fun stuff. Questions?
Just out of curiosity. Thank you, by the way.
Yep.
Do we have anything that monitors the Google searches and the email content for
Yes.
alert words, whether it's safety alerts or things like that?
Yep, we have a tool called LineWise
I know
that that
one.
does all of that. And we also have Sophos, which is our firewall, which kind of does some monitoring and filtering as well. Yeah, but LineWise would be our primary tool that we use to catch all those kind of words.
Who are there alerts that is there somebody who?
There's alerts on a dashboard.
Yeah.
It's a passive monitoring system,
Right.
so it's not like an active where it's yelling at us for every alert. Yep.
So the notifications are off.
Yep.
So to speak, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
And we extend the use of that tool, LineWise, to teachers through, it's called ClassWise. So they can use a lot of that same functionality in the classroom. And then we extend even further to parents at home with their app called Custodio. So they can take the tools there, use it, connect their student to their own account, and use it in out of school time to filter and monitor and do all that, as well as add a personal device to the account.
And that kind of stuff, we don't have access to.
We have nothing to do, anything outside of after the school day, it's cut off from us.
The parent could put it on their kid's phone.
Oh, yes. That's explored a little bit.
Yep.
Keep studying.
Great.
Mr. Chair. I love all these, thank you for this presentation, and I love all these lofty goals, but I am a little bit concerned that we are in this budget year right now, and we don't have lots of extra funding, so it would be awesome if you could, organize your list of needs and, rank them. So, what is super important? Do we need to get these switches this summer if potentially in a few years we're getting a new building or something like that? So, what are the must-haves to make the building function for the next year or so, and what is something that maybe we can wait a bit to get until we figure out what's going on with our budget this year and what's happening with the building?
Yes.
Those are my concerns and thoughts.
I hear you, and I have that kind of good handle on those wants and needs to be able to share with
It
with
would be,
people.
it would be helpful, I had kind of the same thought of
Mhm.
just understanding how close we are.
Yep.
I don't want things crashing,
Yep.
but at the same time, if
Yep.
it's, hey, these things probably could last another 3 years,
Yes.
let's sit on that for, till next May when we know
Mhm.
where we're going with the building.
Yeah, I
2 Mays.
completely understand. And in the short kind of story of all that. Switches and servers are probably something we pushed off for 2-3 years already.
Sure.
Those are the two main ones where we have security and cameras and Google Workspace upgrade. We can probably put some of that stuff off because we can still function. And I do have this sheet with costs and all
Yeah.
this stuff broken down. I've
Sure.
been going
Yeah,
on
yeah,
for like
yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
Those two are the ones we need to think hard about
Okay.
for
Okay.
soon. Yeah.
And I think Ryan's also done a good job, like just like looking at our software and what is actually being used, what isn't being used. So we really don't need to pay for this because we're not using it. So
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank
and
you so
I'd
much.
just like
Very
to,
good.
I'd like to thank Ryan because he mentioned his passion is in the classroom. He certainly had an impact in our classrooms with our teachers. But his impact has also stretched to the offices with how their workflow goes. And he's also worked with us in our dealings with town hall and the systems that we're integrating with them. So he's touched just about every area and done a great job. And, it's really nice when unsolicited I'm walking down a hallway and a teacher grabs me and tells me they're so happy they've been able to work with Ryan on something. So thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's great.
All right, we'll go down to action items. We've got consideration to approve the I'll take a motion to approve the November 28th meeting minutes and the executive session minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the November 28th meeting minutes and the executive minutes from July through November.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider lease renewal for the TIES program. Mr. Wiggin, would you like to join us?
Much better than the traffic on 95.
Yeah, police escort from Green Airport, like Doug Marabelli when he was gonna catch for Tim Wakefield. We got him here.
I didn't have any police escort. I didn't know I could get a police escort.
They were undercover, Mr. Wiggins.
They were undercover. That's what all the traffic was around me. Okay. Yes, our lease, our initial 3-year lease is up with for the property in Norfolk that we use for the TIES program. The program has been very successful. We are going to continue to need a space for the TIES program. And because the build-out is completed, the actual budgetary impact is going to go down. So,
Good news.
yeah, I thought
great.
that would be good news. Everybody administratively is certainly in favor of this. We've had a great relationship with the landlord, who I think, as you folks may or may not remember, that among other things, the space that we lease at 65 Holbrook Street is adjacent to an adult facility. And they're actually doing things together.
Great.
Okay, I think the Christmas party, I forget who's doing the Christmas party.
Ties kids are.
Yes, the Ty's kids are going over there for their
And,
Christmas party.
The adult program visited our kids for their Thanksgiving party.
For their
That's so
Thanksgiving.
nice.
Yeah,
So
they're making connections. Really nice to see.
it's really nice to see the connections, and the owner of Four Oaks, from the get-go, when we first were looking at the space, talked about all the work that he has done with individuals with developmental disabilities. So it's been a great relationship. So we would encourage you to renew the lease.
Excellent. All right. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to authorize the Director of School Finance and Human Resources to sign the first lease extension with the Four Oaks Corporation for Suite 110, located at 65 Holbrook Street in Norfolk, Massachusetts.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is, and we're not doing the food service contract,
We
correct?
are not doing the
Correct.
food service contract tonight. I will be meeting with the food service representative tomorrow. There's some slight confusion that I think we'll be able to straighten out.
Okay. And we have consideration of possible fee adjustments for preschool and kindergarten programs for next school year.
And I think you have a memo there, and I think we'll just start in the order of the memo, and we'll start with preschool. And I've laid out the projected revenue for this year. Right now, we're looking at probably slightly over $100,000 at $101,090. There was a fund balance carried forward. We're projecting $100,977,000 in salaries and $956 and change in expenses this year. But basically, to carry it all forward, when we looked at it and played it out, and in all of these, I gave you 3 scenarios. When we made the big adjustments we made last year, one of the basis for that was that we hope to be able to come back with modest increases this year and moving forward. And we really feel that we can do a 3% increase. A 0% could certainly be supported, but we would no longer be supporting a full-time teacher. And I think we still want to be able to have the funding that more or less supports what we have supported in the past. And 3% allows us to do that, which is why I recommended 3%.
Terry, on the schedule, why does the salary go up from 3 to 5%?
Let me get there. I have too many. All right. That's not it. There we go. Okay. So we're talking the different columns.
Yeah, so like, what it looks like is we're currently not covering 100% of the salary through the revolving fund. And so a 3% increase would allow us to cover basically a $3,000 increase in that salary. Everything else stays the same, 5%. So we basically, but then when we go to the 5% column, if we increased it by 5%, the salary.
We could cover more salary.
Right.
Right.
So that's what it is.
Right. The 3%, with the 3%, we're basically covering what we were covering for the teacher, plus the salary increase. So in other words, what I did before I calculated these,
Yep.
is I actually ran the numbers for the teachers.
Okay.
That would be in there. And so what that does is that basically, that going from 46,254 to 49,286, that's the actual teacher increase. All right?
So that's,
For the
so
teacher that's been allocated to that.
3% would keep a proportional
Proportional
split
teacher.
between the revolving fund and the operating budget.
Right. And the paraprofessional contribution is kept level.
Is that 100% covered in the revolving fund, or is there more in the operating
There's
budget?
approximately 1.5 professionals covered there.
Okay.
And actually, it might be 2, it might be almost 2. They work less hours. I'd have to go back and check.
And-
Yeah, I think you know what, the more I look at that, the more I think it's 2.
Yeah, it looks like 2. That number's more closer to 2 than 1.
It's closer to 2.
Um,
I tend to think of the regular classroom errors.
And some of the trick behind this in the split between the proportion that's sitting in the revolving fund versus the operating budget, and the reason why historically we have also been very cognizant of maintaining that and understanding it is because there's a decent population of our preschool that does not pay tuition because they are, whether they have IEPs or whatever, they have to. Like they're in because they have to be. Whereas those who are choosing to go and paying tuition, the committee has been very sensitive of not having tuition paying families be overburdened because basically to solve budget problems
Right.
by shifting mandated expenses to tuition to solve other issues.
So we're really, yeah, correct. We're trying to manage this so that it's really
Right.
covering the expenses we require. And it doesn't quite cover those expenses, but it covers a significant
Right.
portion of the expenses for the peer model students, if you will.
So to Robin's point about as we push into this budget season, like a reason to just keep the proportional balance instead of looking at 5 or more, which then would reduce the operating budget, is that really what we would be doing is shifting mandated costs to tuition-paying families, which the committee has historically advocated against.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
If I'm reading this right, and I'd like to think that I am, but please correct me if I'm wrong. If we increase the price to 3% for the preschool for a 5-day program, it would impact the families by $7.56. Is that a month?
For a 5-day program.
Yeah, so it would increase it by $7.65
For a month.
for a month. Okay, and then the same thing for the kindergarten full day program, it'll be $10.17 increase from what we have now a month
If you work with the 3%,
for the 3%.
yes.
Okay, and then for again the impact on the families for the preschool, what's complicated was there's so many options. But if you did the preschool wrap for 5 days, at 3%, it would be $23.31 more than we're
Yes, I
paying.
noticed that did not make the agenda tonight, but to go over there for a second, I have no reason to doubt your numbers.
Well, they're your numbers. I just think I'm reading
Well,
it right.
no, but I'm not looking at them, which is why
Yeah,
I
sure.
said you're quoting
Okay.
them.
Where you see, where's a wrap?
It's
Preschool wrap
on
for 5 days, yes.
6C extended day.
That is correct.
Oh, there we
Um,
go.
23,
It's
30.
extended day, okay.
Correct.
The preschool wrap is
Preschool.
6A.
Gotcha.
So the impact is to families. It works in my brain better if I see what that 3% means.
Yep.
So it's
If if those 3 programs were all increased 3%.
3%.
yes.
And
That's, I
then
think,
you
what you're
did it out
driving
for
at.
5 and 7. Okay. Thank you. Are you asking us to choose how much we're increasing, or are you suggesting we're increasing it by 3%?
Well, I'm recommending to you 3%.
Harry's recommending
We're recommending
3.
3%. But you just did the other numbers for us. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think giving you the other numbers gives perspective.
Sure, for sure. I appreciate it.
Particularly given what we went through last year.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to vote on, does anybody want to propose a motion on these, or do we want to do kindergarten, look at kindergarten and extended day first and then circle back?
It doesn't matter to me. What do you want to do?
Why don't we?
Why don't we look at them all, and then we'll do a vote at the same time.
Okay.
So kindergarten,
If we move over to kindergarten, kindergarten, because it's not a mandated program, and there's two things here that kind of come into play with kindergarten. Again, feeling is that 3% is easily a place that we could go. The 214,000 for professional salaries would support 2 teachers. The 35,000 in salaries would probably be a little shy of an aide being level funded. But again, to some degree, I can manipulate a little bit of that, you know, with a positive fund balance. That's why we try to keep somewhat of a positive fund balance. The thing that I was trying to do a little bit more here was obviously, I think there was some sensitivity here, well, with all 3 funds really, with all the funds, is trying to make sure that it wasn't really building up a fund balance. And so you'll see the fund balance here is showing kind of a decline from the 24,000 that we ended up with somewhat surprisingly in FY23. It will probably be slightly under 15 this year, and at a 3% increase, we would expect it to be around 63, 57 for FY25 at 3%. I think keeping a fund balance between $6,000 and $10,000 is a relatively safe place. I think going much below that gets a little chancy.
So these, the fund balances in these, there was a point in time, well, historically there was no balance, and there was a point in time 10 and 15 years ago when these revolving funds had significant balances that were being unused and were generating surpluses that we have spent down over time through lack of fee increases and covering budget shortfalls or one-time costs that have come up. But we did set ideal minimums or ideal kind of reserve amounts for all of these funds to cover. So for example, preschool, was at 60,000 was the number we wanted because that covered a preschool teacher. Basically, if we needed to, get through a year, we had 60,000. We had a full teacher salary in there for savings. Well, we've spent all that. We've had those emergency years to the point that we don't have any left, which is one of the reasons why we're going to be in the position in May that we're going to be in. There is no extra money sitting around anywhere in these revolving funds. School choice was another one. We had intended on having school choice balance really not go below 200,000 because that was going to cover at the time 2 or 3 teacher salaries. We've taken that down much lower than we ever wanted to. So in an ideal world, you'd have these balances targeted with a purpose, whatever that number is. Obviously, you don't need them to be, all of them being over 100,000, which they were at one point. Free cash, or school choice had like $600,000 at one point. But to manage them at zero just gives no options. You just have, if the proverbial, if the boiler went at some point, you've got nothing to tap into. Again, we have never gone for an emergency need, at a November town meeting because we had nothing that we could go, we had a little bit, we could always solve the emergent problem. Spending all these accounts down to zero and having nothing in them takes that opportunity away. So That's a long-winded way of saying, ideally, you should have something in there. Target an amount, so you have a little bit of cushion somewhere.
I think at one point in time, a few years back, I had discussed that the target with like kindergarten and preschool revolving ought to be whatever B1 is.
The
Plus or
salary
minus.
scale. The salary scale.
The salary
B1,
scale.
Yeah.
That way, if you needed to add a class, you had enough money in there that you could probably go out and get a teacher and you'd be okay. You'd be able to figure out how to do that. School choice is that exception, as Mark said, because school choice is not only a place where you'd conceivably have to go out and find a teacher, but you might have to buy a boiler. You might have to fix a roof. There's a number of different things that school choice goes to, which is why we look to try and keep that, if possible, considerably higher. And unfortunately, in recent years, that has been basically exhausted. But I think the other thing is it's a situation where, you know, if we're going to build it up, it's something that's not going to be built up overnight. You're going to have to build it up gradually.
And while we're talking about the full-day kindergarten tuition, the question comes up every year, you know, about taking advantage of the state doing free full-day kindergarten. In order to do that, we would have to cover the first year, which, as we're looking at, is $240,000 in kindergarten tuitions that we bring in a year. So we would have to find $240,000 in revenue or COTS in order to get through the first year before the state starts paying us to cover full-day kindergarten. So.
I mean, like theoretically, it should be self-sustaining, but, right? The tuition should cover
Yeah.
the teacher, but it doesn't do
Right.
that.
Well, I mean, it does, but the problem is the state wants you to not charge tuition for a full year before, because they want to pay you in arrears.
Mm.
So, in essence, you've got to have the money sitting there to pay the first year before they pay you back. It's kind of like circuit breaker.
Mm-hmm.
What you spend is what they're going to give you. But they tell you you can't, you have to go a year without charging first, so that makes it tough.
It's definitely aspiration.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely
Sure.
aspirational.
We were close, if not for sped, truthfully.
Now, there is something related to this that maybe we want to take up now and come back to, but that would be the kindergarten sliding scale. You want to take that up now, or do you want to just take that up separately, Mark?
Why don't we do that separately?
All right, we'll do that separately. That's fine. So I guess we'll go back and see if there are other questions here.
We can look at extended day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we look at extended day, extended day ended up the year with a surprising fund balance of, or I'm projecting that we'll end up with well, no, actually, let me back up. So for FY23, it ended up with a surprising fund balance of $18,481. I expected it to be in deficit, even with the increase that we proposed. The reason it ended up with a surplus is that I only got billed $34,969 in benefits. If you go back and look at some previous years' histories, we've been billed between $75,000 and $83,000 in benefits. So that's certainly good news. It's also unusual news. So you'll see, based on what I know right now, and that projection for FY24 is based on real billings that I've received thus far, I would expect that I will be billed $41,496 for benefits for this year, So based on what I think that when you add that fund balance together with what I think my revenues will be, and I take out my projected salaries, my supplies, professional development, and of course, as I say, the projected benefits, I would expect that I will have a fund balance that will be around $22,000. Now, in the past, this program carried a fund balance of around $100,000, but it slowly got eaten away. And then COVID, it basically got destroyed because we used that basically to pay the benefits of folks we laid off. We didn't really lay them off, we actually furloughed them. So I think a 3% increase is more than enough for extended day. I would be reluctant to have no increase. And the reason I highlight that benefit line in kind of a rose color, mostly because you can't see red if I highlight it in red, is that's a huge variable. And that again is what the fund balance protects against. Now, I would say if my fund balance got built up to a point where I had enough to cover an $80,000 benefits bill, if it was suddenly, sprung upon me, then I would obviously feel less nervous. I don't have that right now. If I take what I expect the fund balance to be and I add it to, well, basically nothing, because in other words, I wouldn't have a fund balance to add to it. So you see what I'm saying? I need to build up a fund balance of probably at least $80,000 to protect myself against the situation where I'd have no fund balance and an $80,000 benefits bill.
And an extended day is slightly different as well, because extended day should be completely self-sufficient.
Yep.
So two reasons that they historically had that high $100,000 balance was, one, because they're supposed to be completely self-sufficient and not tap into the operating budget of the school or getting warrant articles or anything like that. The other reason is, prior to the new building, when extended day was in the mobile unit that it was back there, that 100,000 was a replacement cost number for that. So when they first had it, they leased it, and they were making the lease payments on it, but then we're building up a reserve that if they decide to buy a new one, that's what that was for. That's why it was so high. And once we moved into the building, the need for that didn't exist, and then COVID.
Yeah.
And
COVID
then
created
COVID.
a new reason.
Well, yeah, and so we decided
Different
to
reason.
keep our employees with benefits.
No,
Which-
it was the right thing to do. I'm the first to commend the committee for the action that it took. But it just, this particular revolving fund is probably, it may be the most difficult. Transportation and athletic can be difficult, but not really with as many variables as this one runs into.
So Terry, do you know why the benefits is down? Is it because we have less employees on benefits?
Well, I think part of
through
it
the
is,
town?
part of it looks like we have less employees on benefits, but part of it, there's been a restructuring in the benefit landscape,
Okay.
and that has changed. And there was a big push this year to make people look hard at what they were choosing for benefits. And I think that a lot of folks opted into, in some cases, well, either opted into a less expensive scenario, or because they didn't pay attention, were put into a less expensive scenario. And I think that's why I'm a little skinchy as far as whether or not this is going to hold out, because this spring it will be clearer for people to choose.
Gotcha.
There will also be, from what I understand, there may be a greater menu of options for an employee to purchase. Now, if the employee is purchasing, it shouldn't cost us any more here.
Right.
But again, I haven't seen that open enrollment yet, so I want to make sure that that's a true statement.
Do you think that the 3% increase will give us enough of a buffer in the interim? In terms of,
I'm uncomfortable going higher.
Yeah, for sure.
We asked people to do a lot to keep this program running.
yeah,
In doing so, we said we could come back with a modest increase because we had a fund balance, because we're projecting a fund balance, because I have no good scientific reason to project that benefits will go up back to those previous years' numbers. I think 3% is enough.
okay,
Can I guarantee that? It's always a projection.
yeah, sure.
But I just feel uncomfortable with the big ask that people sat here in this audience and were willing to stand up and say, we would rather have extended day, and the huge increase that goes along with keeping it than have it go away. I'd rather try to honor their faith in us.
Sure.
All right. So I believe Terry's recommendation is a 3% increase on all 3 programs.
Do you
Yes.
want separate?
Do it all as one, if people want to.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to increase the Millis School District's preschool program, full-day kindergarten program, and an extended day program, including its preschool wrap program, by 3% for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wigan.
Let's talk about one other related item.
Okay.
Last year, the sliding scale did not get adjusted. And the sliding scale has not been adjusted since 2017, when apparently the basis of the old sliding scale went away. And so I made a silly promise to Jane Leota that I would research it and see if I could find a basis for a new sliding scale, thinking that I probably wouldn't find something and we'd have to maybe scrap the scale altogether. Well, I did find a basis for it. So Health and Human Services actually does have a poverty index, and it's based on the number of people in the family. And so that created what you see in teal, which is the baseline. So then I looked at the old sliding scale to see how it adjusted forward, and lo and behold, it was a lot like steps in a teacher's contract. And a lot like steps in the teacher's contract, it was all messed up. And you guys know me. I have to fix things. So I went through and worked out what I thought was a more sensible step process. And so that's what you see before you. So this is basically 6 years removed from the initial scale. It is based on, again, what Health and Human Services says are the poverty indexes right now. If you look at, for example, a family of 11, and you were to look down and figure out what somebody could make and still pay nothing, it seems like a lot until you realize they have 11 people in that family. They probably ought to pay nothing if they have that many people in that family. And then, of course, it's, depending on their income, there's still a level that they would pay per month. So this is the scale we're proposing to you. To some degree, it's a move in the direction of obviously getting more people involved in full-day kindergarten. It always has been. So you have both scales there. You can see the increase monthly that it would be.
And that's
For-
assuming the 3% that we just voted?
That's assuming the 3% we just voted. So there's kind of two things that come into play. The income goes up, that comes into play. But if you hit that income, you're going to pay more money. So there's more likelihood that you may not have to pay, but if you have to pay, there is a likelihood that you will pay 3% more than you would have under the old scale. Does that make sense?
But the dollar value, so like, just because it's the column I'm looking at. So for example, a family of 6, there's no charge. Under the old scale, there was no charge up to an income of, a monthly income of $29.20.
Right,
Now that number is $33.57.
correct.
So whereas the person who is now making $33.58 is going to pay $349 annually. Last year that number would have, or this year that number is going to be $330. But now they're going to be paying that $349 for an extra, basically $12,000 of income a month per year, because the $349 doesn't end until $5,109, where this year it ends at $4,088.
Correct.
Right, so he was saying he tries to get more people into.
Right, so the, basically the people on the lower end of each scale may be paying a little bit more than what they paid this year. They're gonna stay in that line longer. So Terry, these ranges, this is all coming off of the,
This is all the first line, the teal line,
yep,
is all based on the current Health and Human Services poverty determination for those size families. Now, you have no requirement to change the sliding scale. You have no requirement to have a sliding scale. I think historically it has been a Millis tradition's not the word I want.
Practice, yeah.
Practice, and that's not really the word I want either. It's just, but practice is a better word. I think it's something that we felt was the right thing to do. And because there was a method of doing it until 2017, it was easy to do. We could point to it, we could say, this is something that the federal government has out there, we can use it. We did it, and then it went away. And so now we can keep the old one. We can go to the new one, which if you decide you don't like it, it's no skin off my nose. It was an interesting exercise, and hopefully it was useful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. Or you can say, you know what, the time has come for sliding scale to go away.
What happens when the sliding scale goes away?
The sliding scale, if the sliding scale were to go
Everybody pays the
away,
max.
then the tuition rate would be the tuition rate.
Okay.
For every family.
Now,
Do you know
what
how
if-
many families we have that access or
Well,
use this?
If you said the sliding scale was going to go away,
Yeah.
there's one other significant change here I would recommend you put in place. And that is, you'll notice there's narrative that I've added to the new sliding scale. And I've added in two pieces of narrative. Narrative one says students who are directly certified for free or reduced meals may automatically attend full-day kindergarten at no charge.
Okay.
And then the second line is students who are directed to have free or reduced services by the federal or state government may automatically attend full-day kindergarten at no charge. So for example, in the second case, if you think back a couple of years ago, we had students who were in this district. I don't know if we had any at the elementary level, but with the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico, and there was a special program, and we had students here, and we had a grant that helped pay for some of the things that covered them while they were here. That second line was to cover something like that, but it would also cover a situation where you had somebody who had a student who wasn't direct certified for free and reduced, but went through the application process, and through the application process was determined through federal regulations to be either a free or reduced student.
If we take this away, how many families does it impact?
That I don't know, honestly. And this is something you could put aside for now. You would not necessarily need to take action tonight, I don't believe.
No, we wouldn't need tonight.
We
Because
wouldn't
it'd
need
be
this
for-
tonight
for
because,
Because it's for next school year anyway.
yeah, we would certainly need it at the beginning, probably,
Yeah, I'd say end of January, beginning of February. we'll
yeah.
start sending out
That's
the
really when
kindergarten
when stuff
registration.
starts going out.
Is there a
Um,
way for you to find out how many families?
We can indeed. I am absolutely
Yeah.
sure that we can find that out.
I mean, I feel like if it impacts one family, we should keep it.
Yeah?
So that
I
they
think
can-
it's a very good question, and I'm kind of sorry I didn't think of it myself.
And so like, Terry, so are these incomes gross?
Yes.
Gross income?
Yeah.
So, family of four, if you're the last number, like the 9135, family of four at 109,000. That's what, so.
Wait, what? Which one are you looking at?
So,
The old one or the new one?
the new one, family of four,
Mhm.
9135, which is the highest number
Mhm.
that would still that gets a reduction. Family of four is 109,000. So if you make 109,621 a year, you get no sliding scale as a family of four. Just that's how it plays.
Mm.
So it may be helpful, yeah, to know, I mean, I agree. I think if we have anybody, which I'm sure we do, I also would be slightly reluctant. I'd like to understand
Mhm.
how big a jump it would be for any of it. Like if you've got somebody in even in that first category, like the 349 category, to tell them all of a sudden they're going from paying $35 a month to $358.
So I'm pretty sure we can probably give you the grid.
Yeah,
I
like
know.
I
Yeah.
can't do that.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I mean I'm not a yeah. So why don't we get the
We'll get that.
details?
Yeah.
Just,
We'll get-
just
we'll
so
get-
just so we know.
Mhm.
We'll get the current grid laid out by number, and we can also get, we may be doing the first narrative unofficially now anyways, but we can check on that and see if there's anybody who's fitting that. we're giving the free.
And that could change.
Oh, yeah. We'll get that information for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, anything else with any of these, Terry?
No, I think that takes care of those.
Okay.
Do you have any FY24 budget update information you want to give us?
We're
Don't-
working on it. I would say so far, I mean, the stuff we're working on is normal. You heard Ryan give an excellent presentation. Some of those things you will see, probably pop up, certainly in the budget. If nothing else, as an initial radar scope presentation. But I think for the most part, the administrative team understands that it's looking at a level budget. Everybody's got needs. And I'm sure Bob hears them more than I do, but I hear them as well. And, we're both delivering, I'm pretty sure, the same message, which is, right now, it's a level budget that we're looking at unless something is absolutely mission critical.
And again, we've said it before. It doesn't mean we don't want to see the list.
Right. And that's what and this is exactly what we've said to folks. I think, what's today, the 12th? Okay, so Friday must be. They've been issued something where they can sort of put in those requests that are above and beyond, and they'll have a narrative and that sort of thing, and we'll see what we get. Which reminds me, I probably ought to remind them they're due, because they've had them for a month. And again, I think for the most part, they understand this, extremely well, that we're in a very difficult budget situation, and that the town's in a difficult budget situation. But what we've tried to explain to them is, we need to know what your absolute needs are and why you need it. So we'll get that information. We will have it as part of our budget presentation to you all in your budget books. And we'll see where we go from there.
All right. MSBA update. Bob, did they take the final vote on the?
Yeah, so we had the interviews last week for the designer, and TAPE has been selected as the top choice by the design selection panel. So now OPM Vertex is talking contract with TAPE. The voting was TAPE was the first choice, and the second choice was RDA.
Did they do Clyde Brown?
TAPE did. TAPE did Clyde Brown.
And the library, correct? Or the police
Did
station?
they do the library?
I think they did. But they definitely did Clyde Brown.
Yeah. And the selection panel was myself, Richard Nichols, and Denise. And then there were about a dozen people from the MSBA and the trades. And so we felt very comfortable with TAPE, and fortunately their presentations were good enough that they convinced the other dozen members of the board so that their proposal came on top. The other companies were also very good. So if something were to happen with TAPE, which I seriously doubt, we couldn't get a contract with them, the other firms would be able to work with as well.
Next, superintendent's report.
Okay, just have an update on enrollment. And for December, we have 1,193 students in the district. Clyde Brown is at 599. They're up 2. The middle school's at 270, up 1. High school's at 318, down 1. Ties remains at 6. Out-of-district placements, we're down 2 from 20 to 18. The total in and out of district is 1211, which is the same as it was last year, just some movement at the various schools.
So when we say that the high school is down one, does that mean a student chose to go out of
A
district?
kid moved.
Oh, okay.
Kid moved, yeah. And we
Okay.
also had some kids in the high school who moved out of town but are still going here, so we
Choicing
actually
in?
picked up a couple choice slots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. We don't have any correspondence, no school committee announcements, old new business. We don't have a need for executive session. So, looks like we're done.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is next year.
Yes. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah,
that's
happy
right.
holidays.
Wow.